Today is the date packed with significance in Tudor history. It's Henry VII's birthday, the anniversary of the death of Henry VIII, and the anniversary of the accession of Edward VI. Let's take a closer look at how these three monumental events shaped the Tudor dynasty. First, let's go back to the 28th of January 1457, when Henry Tudor was born at Pembroke Castle in Wales. Henry was born into a world of turmoil. His mother, Lady Margaret Beaufort, was just 13 years old, and his father, Edmund Tudor, 1st Earl of Richmond, had died 3 months before Henry was even born. As a young boy, he lived through the chaos of the Wars of the Roses, and much of his early life was spent in exile in Brittany, far from any notion of power or influence. But, against all odds, Henry changed the course of history. In 1485, he returned from exile as the main Lancastrian claimant to the throne and defeated King Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field, bringing an end to the Wars of the Roses and establishing the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII's reign may not have been glamorous, but it was crucial in bringing stability to a fractured kingdom. As king, he worked to secure his throne, often by very careful and calculated means. He married Elizabeth of York, daughter of the late Yorkist king Edward IV, uniting the houses of Lancaster and York. And he strengthened the monarchy's finances, which had been drained by years of war. Henry also used diplomacy to his advantage, including arranging a strategic marriage for his daughter, Margaret Tudor, and James IV of Scotland, which would later pave the way for the union of the crowns. Henry VII was shrewd, cautious, and determined, a king who may not be as flashy as his son, but whose legacy is the very foundation of the Tudor dynasty. Exactly 90 years later, on the 28th of January 1547, Henry VII's son, Henry VIII, took his final breath at Whitehall Palace. Henry VIII is perhaps the most infamous of all the Tudor monarchs. His reign is defined by monumental events, dramatic changes, and of course his 6 wives. Born to be a Renaissance prince, Henry started his reign full of promise, a charismatic, athletic, and cultured king. But over time, his obsessive pursuit of a male heir and his thirst for power led him to reshape England forever. The most defining moment of Henry's reign was the break with Rome, which was the catalyst of the English Reformation. When Pope Clement VII refused to grant him an annulment from Catherine of Aragon, Henry took matters into his own hands. He declared himself supreme head of the Church in England, severing ties with Rome. This wasn't just a religious upheaval, it was a seismic shift in England's political and social structure. Henry was also a man of ambition on the battlefield, wanting desperately to go down in history as another Henry V, leading campaigns against France and Scotland. One of England's most notable victories came at the Battle of Flodden in 1513, where his troops, led by the Earl of Surrey and under the regency of Henry's first wife, Catherine of Aragon, defeated the Scots, killing King James IV of Scotland, who was married to Henry's sister Margaret. But Henry's reign wasn't all glory. His later years were marked by tyranny, health problems, and a growing paranoia. He executed his second wife, Anne Boleyn, his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, and countless others, earning a reputation as a fearsome and ruthless ruler. When he died at the age of 55, he left behind a kingdom transformed, and a young son, Edward VI, who was just 9 years old and about to inherit the throne. Which brings us to our final event, Edward VI's accession on the 28th of January 1547. Edward VI is often remembered as the boy king. At just 9 years old, he was far too young to rule independently, so his reign was dominated by his regents or protectors. First, his uncle Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, and later John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland. Despite his short reign, Edward played a key role in shaping England's religious future. His government pushed forward Protestant reforms, including the introduction of the Book of Common Prayer in 1549, which laid the foundation for Anglican worship. These changes, though revolutionary, also caused unrest, as traditional Catholics resisted the new direction. Edward himself was a devout Protestant, deeply influenced by reformers around him. However, his reign wasn't without challenges. Social unrest, financial struggles, and factional rivalries plagued his government. Tragically, Edward's reign lasted just 6 years. He died in 1553, aged only 15, leaving England in a succession crisis that would see Lady Jane Grey briefly take the throne before Edward's half-sister, Mary I, restored Catholicism. So there you have it, 3 key events in Tudor history, all on this one day in history. The birth of Henry VII, who founded the dynasty, the death of Henry VIII, who reshaped England, and the accession of Edward VI, who pushed forward Protestant reforms. Each of these moments left an indelible mark on England's history and reminds us of the complex, fascinating story of the Tudors. What are your thoughts on these 3 monarchs? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, do remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell for more Tudor history. See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.